Welcome back to Wicked Teen. I'm Daniel, and this is Hannah. And we'd like to thank everyone that's been viewing the show, everyone behind the cameras in the studio, and Lauren and Jess for helping out with the show. Lauren, that was absolutely amazing singing, and I have to say that Billy Elliot is also my favorite show.
And we'd also like to thank Avni for letting me and Jess wear these amazing shirts and for showing us some of her other designs.
So now to finish up the show, we're going to send it to YBA's own Evan Berkowitz for a political interview. Evan?
Thanks, guys. It's been called the biggest presidential election of our lives. It's one of the most important senatorial elections in the country. And let's not forget that our local government is running now as well. I'm Evan Berkowitz, and joining me today is State House of Representatives incumbent candidate Thomas Conroy of the 13th Middlesex District, which includes parts of Sudbury, Wayland, and Lincoln. We'll talk about the impact of the presidential race and the Senate race, but also about Representative Conroy's own battle for re-election. Representative Tom Conroy, thanks for joining me.
It's great to be here, Evan. Thanks so much for having me.
And let's get right into it. The presidential debate was just 2 nights ago. Did you watch?
I did. It's very interesting and exciting to watch.
Very much. And who do you think won, in your opinion?
Well, certainly a lot of pundits out there are saying that Mitt Romney, quote unquote, won the debate. But what concerns me is that he expressed certainly a lot of conviction and a lot of confidence, and I think that appealed to a lot of people. But when you're doing that and being dishonest and somewhat deceitful to the American people with regard to your budget deficit reduction plan, your tax plan, I have a real issue with that.
And what did you think about the respect or lack thereof shown to Jim Lehrer, the moderator, throughout the debate that I sensed and a lot of people have commented on?
Well, Mr. Lehrer, I don't think was as assertive as he possibly could have been, and quite frankly, I would have liked to have seen him hold the candidates more accountable and actually insert himself into the back and forth where there was a bit of a he said, you said, he said, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong kind of thing, and I think Mr. Lehrer could have stepped in and offered some facts where there was an absence of that.
And a lot of people have also commented that President Obama was not on top of his game. He usually does better at these sorts of debates. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think that was I think evident. There was a lack of preparation, I think, quite frankly. I would also posit that the president was a little bit caught off guard by Governor Romney, and I know, having gone through debates like that myself, not obviously at that level with 67 million viewers, but when you're in a debate and you've done a lot of preparation work and you've got your talking points down, and it's hard to have a lot of this stuff memorized, and your opponent comes at you in an unexpected way or an unexpected manner with sort of an unexpected series of phrases and language, it's hard to pivot on your feet and take that step away from those talking points and go, speak off the cuff suddenly with all those viewers. And I think what President Obama did was he took the safer route, stayed with his talking points, and consequently you saw a little bit of a halting mannerism there.
And now on to a just as important election, the Massachusetts Senate election between incumbent Senator Scott Brown and newcomer Elizabeth Warren. What do you think of Ms. Warren?
I like her. I think she's got the right priorities, and I think she's got the compassion and the right focus and the right belief, quite frankly, in the way the economy works. That's one of the biggest beefs that I have with Scott Brown and Mitt Romney, is that they have this theoretical and I think unfounded belief in supply-side trickle-down economics.
And we should mention that you are a Democratic representative.
Well, I am. I'm somebody that actually appealed to a lot of independents when I ran in Lincoln, Sudbury, and Wayland back in 2006 and again in 2008 in very closely contested races. And I am somebody who I think a lot of folks find reasonable and open-minded, but with so much at stake, the control of the Senate, the control of the White House, and with the economy, such an important issue today in our society. To me, we need to have someone who understands the realities of the way the economy works so that we can create new jobs, create new opportunities for all Americans. And the risk that we take by thinking about allowing Scott Brown and or Mitt Romney to manage our economy is that it's not a reality-based theory of how to manage, and it actually got us into trouble during the Bush years, and I don't think it's the right way to go forward.
And you look at this and you keep mentioning keeping control of the Senate and the House, and keeping control, or taking control back of the Senate, or of the House, and keeping control of the White House. How much do you think it figures in who these people actually are versus their party and just numbers on a piece of paper?
Well, I don't think you can separate the two, because you're right that there's a character issue here, and there's, let's vote for the person, not the party. And that's certainly a sentiment that I'm very attuned to and heard a lot from, and hear a lot to this day from my constituencies. But having worked in Washington on Capitol Hill and seen the dynamic there and felt it and lived it and worked through it, the importance of being able to have chairmanships and, in essence, dictate the agenda and set the priorities and control the process of debate in both chambers of the legislature is extraordinarily important. And of course, the White House speaks for itself. I mean, if you have control of the executive branch, you carry a lot of weight in the shape and the future of where America goes.
And what do you think of Senator Brown? A lot of people say that while he is a Republican, he's not as Republican as some others in the Senate. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think you have to look at his voting record and figure out whether or not we should have somebody in there that would vote differently, and that's a fundamental aspect of that decision-making process, I think, for a lot of people in Massachusetts. So Scott Brown's voting against student loans. He's voting against the Department of Environmental, or the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. He's voting against fair pay for women. He's got, I think, a prioritization around defense spending that is misguided, where he's voted against 3 different jobs bills that the President has put forward and the Senate has voted on. Those, I don't think, are the right kind of votes for the people of Massachusetts, quite frankly.
And you have a sort of a history with Scott Brown. You ran an ad in the Lowell Sun that compared your policies to those of Scott Brown, and said things to the tune of, you have walked across Massachusetts talking to people. He has not held a public meeting in his years in office.
That's right.
Could you elaborate more on that?
Sure. So a little bit of history for folks. So I won office in 2006 and live in Wayland. And Wayland is part of Scott Brown's old state Senate district. So he was my state senator. And I had to work with him and got to know him a little bit there. And let's just say that I was usually the one that came up with the ideas and was the one that pushed forward the agenda. And Scott was the guy who liked to stick around and take the credit. Having said that, when I ran for the United States Senate against him last year in a campaign that lasted about 6 months before it became very clear that Elizabeth Warren was going to be the Democratic nominee, I thought that I was a good candidate to run against Scott Brown because he was not the right guy for the office. I thought we could do a lot better. I thought we needed somebody with my background in business and finance and also somebody who had a compassion for the vulnerable in society. He was not, I think, as good as Massachusetts could do. So that's in part why I offered that contrast in that advertisement.
Quite quickly, should Elizabeth Warren, if she does lose this election and Scott Brown wins again, would you run in the next election?
Well,
for Senate?
It's just difficult to answer hypotheticals. One never knows how this election's going to end up. I think it's still very close. I do think Elizabeth Warren will win ultimately when the day finally arrives. And I don't know when the next Senate office will open up. I do know, as I looked in my calculus, I guess about a year and a half ago when I decided to run for the United States Senate, was I can't really run for the state Senate seat because it's sort of a quirky district, and I'm at the very boundary and extreme of it. Ed Markey is my congressman. He's a great congressman. He's not going anywhere. The next sort of available office was obviously this United States Senate seat. And I tend to gravitate and try to insert myself where I see a strong need. And I see a need for leadership here and somebody who really understands the way the economy works. I think Elizabeth Warren has that understanding, and that's why I'm supporting her.
Let's move on to your own campaign. What are you doing around the district to try and get reelected this fall?
Listening to constituents, meeting with constituents, hearing their concerns, their priorities, very similar to what I did in 2006 and 2008, going door to door, understanding their concerns and their priorities, meeting people, shaking hands and meeting folks at the likes of Sudbury Farms and Whole Foods in Wayland and the Price Chopper in Marlboro. I've got a couple of because of the U.S. Census and the redistricting, I've got a couple of new precincts that I need to pay attention to, some of which are in Marlboro. So meeting folks in that city is new for me, and I enjoy meeting those new folks. And they have slightly different concerns and priorities than the folks in Wayland and Sudbury.
Could you explain those?
Sure. I mean, some of them are housing related. The foreclosure rates in Marlboro are a lot higher. A lot of them are job related. The unemployment rate in towns like Sudbury and Wayland is around 4%. In Marlboro, it's closer to 8%. So I've got to be attuned. There's immigration issues in Marlboro as well. It's a city, not a town. So I've got to be attuned to some of their concerns.
Well, Tom Conroy, thank you for joining me.
Evan, it's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
And more Wicked Teen coming up. But for now, I'm Evan Berkowitz, YBA News, Natick.